Hey there guys, CrossFlux here, and welcome back to more Let's Play Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Red Rescue Team. In the last episode, we backtracked quite a bit and recruited a few of the bosses that we faced on our journeys. But in today's episode, we'll be exploring the newly unlocked Western Cave. Where is it? There it is. But this dungeon is one of the many 99 floor post-game dungeons. Yep, you heard me right. There's not just a 99 floor dungeon in this game, there's multiple. I've avoided them so far because they tend to be tougher challenges, but I think Operation Lightspeed is finally ready to handle that challenge. So speaking of the Western Cave, it has no basic supplies like food, so be sure to bring quite a few huge apples and perhaps even a stamina band if you're into that sort of thing. I also recommend bringing a heal seed or two just in case, and of course Reviver Seeds and Max Elixirs are godsends. A few other held items that I might recommend are X-ray specs to help you avoid monster houses, which are quite common, and also weather bands to avoid sandstorm damage on some of the later floors. You also might want to bring a key or two with you just in case, because there is a locked chamber in this dungeon as well. So here's my current inventory. I brought some silver spikes just for some extra long range damage in case I run out of power points. And I've only brought one Oranberry just because I tend to find Oranberries aren't as useful as Reviver Seeds later on down the line, since, you know, Reviver Seeds also refill your power points and everything. But, so, yep, that's my inventory. As for my team composition, I recommend bringing your highest leveled, most versatile team, because this dungeon has a very wide variety of types on display. Whoever you bring, make sure that they're at least level 45 and that they have the Trap Avoider IQ skill in order to minimize deaths. So these are my 4 best team members, the tried and true members of Lightspeed's core, but I think I'm going to pass on Rim in today's episode just to cover as many types as I can. Tesla with Electric Steel, Lizzie for Fire Flying, and Skipper for Water Ground. And they're the original trio that started it all. So, I'll go ahead and show you off my levels. Skipper I've used the most, so it's quite a bit higher leveled. But Lizzie's IQ is actually through the roof. So that's kind of all I really need to say about the dungeon. It's really long, so I should probably go ahead and hit the speed up button and get on with the dungeon preparation. So, armed with this info, it's time to head out for sure. Make sure that you either bring the Surf HM or have a party member that knows Surf, though. The first 50 floors of the Western Cave honestly aren't that bad. The floor layout is like standard cavey areas. It's not until you pass the halfway point that the floors start getting longer. Not only that, but the chance of sandstorm drastically increases at that point. Traps are also common in this dungeon, the most dangerous of the bunch being PP0 and sticky traps. As I mentioned earlier, monster houses are quite common. If you brought a pair of X-ray specs along, a room with 3 or more items in it is a dead giveaway to an ambush. Speaking of monster houses, there are a lot of Pokemon to be found here, many of them being fully evolved. A lot of these Pokemon are huge threats, but I'll try and keep this list concise. Any of the fully evolved starter Pokemon, all 9 of them, can be a pain, but Charizard and Blastoise are the most dangerous. Luckily, they can only be found on the later floors, so you don't have to worry about them for a long time. Swalot is able to toxic you, drastically weakening you unless you can consume a heal seed or make a mad dash for the stairs. And finally, I'll also highlight Machamp. Not only does it hit like a truck, but it comes packing the Guts ability, further raising its attack if it's afflicted by a status. So unless you can take it out quick or from a distance, be ready to take a pounding. Finally, let's discuss the item distributions. The only consumables that you'll find are berries, seeds, and drinks. The Western Cave has the highest chance out of any of the dungeons for finding stat boosting drinks, if I'm not mistaken. Keys are also somewhat common, which is nice since there is a locked chamber on floor 59. It contains the Beauty Scarf, which allows you to evolve a Feebas into a Milotic. So unless you're completing your collection, it's not a necessary item. Finally, although Kecleon shops are rare, they tend to sell Reviver Seeds and gummies, so that's nice. But that's it for now. Oh wait, hold on a second. It seems that I've found a traveling log, and it's written by Skipper. I guess I'll just peruse this. Day 3. So far we have had few skirmishes. However, we have begun to chase our tails. It just feels like we're traveling in circles. Day 6. The length of this expedition has begun to weigh heavily on all of us. Finally, I snapped and had a moment of weakness. Poor Tesla did not deserve my outrage. I regret this deeply. Day 9. We had already begun to run ragged from exertion, but then the worst happened. I was inflicted with a terrible sickness. Lizzie, Tesla, and this new recruit, I forget the name, had to pick up extra slack. It was truly the worst night I had ever weathered. Day 10. The newbie decided to help me feel better by doing everything that I did. So when I tried avoiding some nasty traps, Garfield decided that it was best to trigger every single one of them, and then complain about feeling exhausted. Day 15. Many days had passed without incident. However, Garfield's genius struck again. In the midst of a heavy sandstorm, his superior cat-like vision failed him. He kept getting separated time and again. Operation Lightspeed has been reduced to babysitters. Day 16. Speaking of separation, I had no idea just how bad things could get. A surprise warp trap separated me from the rest of my teammates. Lizzie and Tesla had enough experience to realize that in times like these, it's best to stick together. The newbie didn't understand how warp traps worked. I suppose he thought that he could simply follow me. Instead, he wound up alone in a very dangerous area. Although he is a chore and quite annoying at times, Garfield has potential, so I decided to work my way to him. Lizzie and Tesla found him first, but were unable to save him from a rampaging Tyranitar. A few of our precious reviver seeds had to be consumed. Surprisingly, I'm not upset. I'm just glad that Garfield is still with us. Oh, and we even found some rare treasure. Day 21. After reaching some of the deeper depths of the western cave, we've discovered a very unstable area. Explosion traps are everywhere, and Garfield just couldn't help himself. Like a Venomoth to a torch, Garfield just had to trigger every trap that he could. After all was said and done, Lizzie and Tesla had begun to go crazy. I don't blame them. Day 22. We had just begun the 4th week of our expedition, and morale was at an all-time low. My X-ray specs revealed a large supply of items nearby. My first instinct was to assume that there was an ambush lying in wait, but I also knew we wouldn't survive much longer without supplies, so I took that risk and made the call for Operation Lightspeed to move out. As it turns out, there was no monster house. It was a traveling Kecleon merchant instead. Words cannot express how relieved we all were to splurge on food and drink. Fully refreshed, we were ready to tackle the remaining floors and finish what we had set out to do. Still, I wonder, how did that traveling Kecleon get so far in this dungeon all by himself? Phew, what a test of endurance, huh? I kind of like this challenge though. I remember this dungeon giving me quite a bit of trouble when I was playing through this game as a kid. Quick story time. You guys ever have times where you go to a location and that place will just make you think of a particular memory? Well, when I was a kid, I played Red Rescue Team on my GBA a lot on car rides. I even made sure to carry spare batteries in my pockets. Anywho, we used to vacation at the beach during the summer. During one of these trips, my parents ended up looking around at some property because they wanted to move to the beach. So I was keeping myself busy with trying to tackle the western cave while they were driving around. Just as I was about to face the boss of the dungeon, I looked out the window and noticed that we were on a certain road. Years later, we ended up moving and I had grown up. Now, whenever I drive by this particular road, my mind always takes me back to that moment when I first reached the boss of the western cave. Was it you who disturbed me in my sleep? Was it you? Alright guys, after this long bit of suspense, the reveal is here. The boss of the western cave is none other than the mighty Mewtwo. I came into being only to fight. I have secluded myself here in suspended animation, yet I can still somehow talk. Would you like to know why? It's quite simple. You're just lonely? If anyone, such as you, were to come along, I could defeat them at full power. Come on. Alright, so Mewtwo, quite a powerhouse in terms of HP and damage output. Real quick, I'm going to give my friend bow to Skipper, and then I'm going to send Tesla home. Because Mewtwo is only a size 1 Pokemon, meaning that you only need 1 point of space free in order to recruit him. However, Mewtwo is one of the few bosses in the game that you cannot recruit on your first try no matter what. So even if you have the friend area and you do everything else right, it's impossible to recruit him on your first try. But he has quite a few recovery moves that make his fight stall out a little bit longer, but if you're high enough level, you can usually take him out in a few hits. But guys, thank you all so much for watching. As always, I know it was kind of a sudden end to the video, but like with many of the other post-game story missions, there's not really a conclusion cutscene. We defeat Mewtwo and yay, we did it. So yeah, off screen I'll go back and recruit him for realsies. But yeah, hope you all stay tuned. I think the next episode will be the Silver Trench, just to go ahead and get that story mission out the way as well. So, as always, have a blessed day, and I will see you in the next one.